Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Ishwara Guratmeti Murti Beda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Satgurum Pranatosmyaham Om Narayana Govinda. Okay, chapter 11, lesson 11, the vision of non-duality. This, for those of you here who don't know, or for those of you who tuned in, who don't, you should know, people who are watching elsewhere. This is a 11th lesson in a 14 lesson teaching on the essence of enlightenment. We've already covered the first majority of it, and now we're just talking about the pure knowledge. To get to pure knowledge, we've had a lot of preparation. We had motivations. What do I want? That was the first lesson. Knowledge and experience. And we had the means of knowledge. And the qualifications, both the teacher and the taught. And so on. The yogas, karma yoga, dharma yoga. We discussed all these topics, jiva, and so on. And so tonight we're just talking about the knowledge of the self. What is moksha? There's some pretty cool ideas here, I think. Even you people you enlightened ones who aren't really looking for anything, you may find a few interesting ideas in this little lesson tonight. So the first question is, in these questions, if you want to participate in this course, and we're going to continue after we finish this course, which will be in a couple, 2 or 3 weeks, we'll start another course. We'll take another text, and twice a month we'll have the webinars. I'm hoping if we get everything done, we can maybe do them once a week and speed up the process a little bit. But those of you who don't know, you sign up if you want to do the course, you can sign up on the website. There's at the bottom of the home page on the left, there's a link that says 12 months teaching course, and if you click on that, you can get the questions. So 2 weeks ago we sent out the questions, and tonight, relating to this chapter, which you're meant to read, you read the chapter and then you try to answer the questions yourself. It's better to write them down, and then I explain I give the answers, and then you see if your knowledge is in harmony with the teaching. So that's how it works. It's good. It's a way to check up to see if you're understanding. And I've written these questions. I've made these questions in such a way that you can't just. You have to think. This is not about memorizing or learning Vedanta, okay? This is about learning to think from the platform of what? The self and the platform of the jiva. Understanding both these points of view and how they relate one to the other. Because there's only two basic categories in existence, the subject and the object. Okay? The subject is me, consciousness, and the object is what? My jiva, my person. That may seem strange because normally people think I'm the person. And that the self, if there is a self, a lot of people don't know there's a self at all, but most spiritual people know there's a self. They think that the self is an object and that they're the subject. And Vedanta says, no, that's not correct. You're the self and the person is an object. You can see what a radical notion that is, isn't it? That's it, and why is that? Why do we all have it backwards? Why do we all have? Well, because of Maya. Maya is a power in awareness that reverses. The technical term is viparaya. Viparaya means reversal. It reverses the relationship between the subject and the object. The natural relationship is that I, consciousness, and the subject, and I, James, the person, is the object. That's the natural way it is. That's the way Ishwara created the whole situation. But because of Maya, it's been reversed. And I take myself to be the subject, and I think the consciousness, or God, is the object. And I live my life from the platform, from that particular misunderstanding or confusion. So the whole of Vedanta is to reverse the reversal. So all we're doing here is trying to reverse the reversal and get back to the norm, to the way it really is. Get back to the natural position. So it's and this is done. This reversing the reversal is done by knowledge. There is no physical way. There's no experiential way that you can reverse this reversal. Because it's not an actual reversal, it's an apparent reversal. If it's an actual reversal, then you can do something about it to change it. Okay? Then you could practice yoga or stand on your head, or I don't know. Just go to the spiritual world and they'll give you a million things you can do to reverse the reversal. But every one of them fails. Because there actually wasn't a reversal in the first place. So there's only ignorance that's making it look like what? Look like I, the self, am the object. And me, the individual, is the subject. So, and the only way that's called aviveka, or lack of discrimination. And that lack of discrimination is what? Is removed by knowledge only. So this chapter is on knowledge. What are the three kinds of knowledge? The question is, what are the three kinds of knowledge and their objects? And the answer is A, the first kind is absolute knowledge. Now, absolute knowledge means what? Knowledge of consciousness as consciousness. Are there objects in that kind of knowledge? Is there any object? Is there a subject and object in that kind of knowledge? No. Why? Because consciousness is non-dual. So there's not two things. There's not a subject and object with absolute knowledge. Absolute knowledge is just pure consciousness. There's no people there. There's no Maya there. There's no world there. It's free of what? Objects, totally. That's called absolute knowledge. Knowledge of Paramartika Satyam, it's called. Satya means what's real, and Paramartika means what? Absolute or total or complete or full, or non-dual awareness. So that's the first kind of knowledge. That's Om, what we call Om, or just pure consciousness. No objects in it. The second, relative knowledge. What is relative knowledge? Knowledge, it's knowledge of the eternal manifest and unmanifest principles in the apparent reality. Now when Maya is operating, what happens? Well, there's a subject and an object, and a world appears. Yeah, come on in. Yeah. There's a subject and an object, and the world appears. Maya creates a world out of the tamasic aspect of itself, out of consciousness, and the subject and the object appear. And the subject, what? The jiva, finds itself in a world that's constantly changing. And it sees itself, in the jiva itself is constantly changing. That means what? That any knowledge that the jiva gets is going to be what? Subject to change, isn't it? It's relative. It's dependent. It depends upon what the nature of the subject is and the nature of the object. Self-knowledge, there's no change. In self-knowledge, there's no change because the self doesn't change. But in the apparent reality, in what we call the world, in what we call life, all knowledge is what? Relative. Relative to the point of view from which what? You're experiencing. Like, for example, it seems that the sun goes around the earth from what point of view?
The earth.
From the earth's point of view. But from the sun's point of view, does the sun go around the earth?
Mm-hmm.
No. So what's the truth?
Earth goes around the sun.
Well, or the sun goes around the earth. It just depends upon your point of view, right? Huh? See? So the knowledge is totally relative, or weightlessness and gravity. Why am I sitting here and why am I not floating off the ground and bumping around like an astronaut? Well, because there's gravity here, but there's no gravity. So what's the truth? Well, in space there's no gravity, but there's no weightlessness. There's actually gravity there, but there's no weightlessness. And here, what? There's gravity. So there's nothing absolute. Everything in the Maya, in the apparent reality, is what? Is dependent upon everything else, dependent upon the point of view that you look at it from. So that kind of knowledge is what? The theory of relativity. I guess that's what that is, isn't that? Does anybody know what the theory of relativity is? Huh? It's relative to the point of view of the observer, isn't it? Isn't that what they say? Yeah, I think that's what relativity is. So, right, absolute knowledge is what? The view from the self's point of view. From the self's point of view, there's only the self. And that's not going to change because the self doesn't change. Knowledge is true to the object. So, if what? If I know the self and the self doesn't change, then what? Then my knowledge is absolute. It doesn't change. My knowledge is permanent. Like that. So what? And then there's information. Information is just constantly changing facts that are occurring here in the apparent reality. Oh, we have these three. What kind of knowledge is going to set me free?
Absolute.
Yeah, absolute knowledge. And why is it absolute? Because what? I don't change.
And that truth doesn't change.
Yeah, the truth is that what doesn't change. That's the truth. I am the truth. The truth is not the truth. In other words, it's not something other than me. It's I am what doesn't change. I'm always the same. Therefore, I am absolute. Understand? Absolute's a scary word, isn't it? It's a big word. You really can't, You really can't get your head around saying that, can you? Because if you say, I'm absolute, what's everybody going to think? Yeah, you're some kind of monarch demon, some kind of, a dictator or something like that. No, it just means you don't change. So, the spiritual words are very difficult. When we say you don't change, what does that mean too? Well, we'll see that in a minute. So, these are the three kinds of knowledge. And relative knowledge is just knowledge that gathered from my jiva about my circumstances. What I feel and think and what happens materially around me in the vyavaharika, in the empirical reality. It's all just relative. It's in a constant state of flux too. So, that's not going to set me free because why? It's changing. Why is self-knowledge absolute knowledge? Well, we just talked about that. Because it's always true. What is always true? It's always true that I don't change. Why don't I change? Because there's nothing other than me. Huh? You can only have change where you have duality, can't you? But if there's only one principle, is it possible for anything to change? Change implies what? It's time and space, duality, doesn't it? You can't, huh? If there's only one principle here, then where is there going to be any change? When you say the self is changeless, that's a tough one. Why is it tough? Because my notion of myself is that I'm always changing. Huh? When somebody calls you on the phone, what do they say? How are you doing? You say, oh, I'm going through lots of changes. Isn't it? Huh? And that's what you think about yourself, don't you? You think you're going through lots of changes. That you're different today from what you were yesterday, and you'll be different tomorrow from what you are today, and so forth and so on. But is that true? Is that the truth?
We're thinking of self in terms of the body then.
What?
We're thinking of self in terms of the body.
That's right, absolutely. Or the mind, the emotions. The mind or the body or the emotions, huh? Absolutely. There you've identified yourself with an instrument, not with the knower. The knower, the seer, what? Doesn't change. When we say don't change, what does it mean? It means you don't modify. When we talk about the self, we're talking about that part of you that is you, that you know very well, that what? Doesn't change when things change. It does, huh? When an object appears, do you appear simultaneous with the object? Do you appear a fraction of a second after the object? No, you don't, do you? An object means a thought or a feeling or experience of any sort. No, you're present, always present, and then the experience, then the thought appears. That thought is an experience. And then the next thought, generates the next experience. But when the first thought goes away, you don't go away, do you? So you're not synonymous or coterminous with thought. You're in a dimension of reality that doesn't change, and the thoughts are in what? The dimension of reality that does change. The awareness that is right here now, because of which you see your body and your mind and hear these words, is the same awareness that was there 50 years ago when you were a little kid playing in the sandbox. It's exactly the same awareness. You were aware of being a little kid playing in the sandbox. And your mama called you and said, "You got to do your lessons." And you said, "No, I don't want to do my lessons." That little kid, that little person, that's not the person who's sitting here, is it? That little person is gone. It's morphed into the person that's here. There's nothing left of that. Only, but you haven't gone anywhere, have you? You haven't moved at all. You imagine that there's a connection between that person there and this person that's sitting here. But there's no evidence that there's any connection. Because you can't get to be this person here unless you stop being that person there. Only in your mind you can think there's a connection, but there isn't actually any connection at all. Because to become this, I have to stop being that. I cannot be two things at once. That's not my experience, is it? So that part that is always aware, that witnesses the changes, is called what? Self. And that's absolute. That's the meaning of the word absolute. It means it doesn't change. So is there suffering for that one? No.
Not an absolute.
No. The whole reason we're doing this, the whole reason we're interested in this topic is we don't want to suffer anymore, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. And why, something that's always true, information can be negated, and relative knowledge can be negated, can't it? Huh? Like, if we're standing on the earth, then what? The sun's going around the earth. But how would we negate that knowledge? Well, we'd go stand on the sun. When we stand on the sun, we negate this knowledge, don't we? We remove that. This knowledge is no longer valid. Now, there's a new knowledge here that we've got. But, what about yourself? Can you ever find a place, can you ever take a stand anywhere that doesn't involve you being yourself? No. Which means what? You're always present, and you're never not present. Even if there's no objects, like in deep sleep, for example. In deep sleep, there's no world, is there? Yet you're present, aren't you? Huh? Yeah, you're present. You're enjoying what? The absence of objects. The absence of objects is just the presence of yourself. You're actually, when you're in deep sleep, you're just yourself experiencing yourself. There's no objects for you to experience there. But yet you're very happy, you're blissful, you're limitless, and all of that, aren't you? You're almost enlightened there. So what's missing? Knowledge. Because when you wake up, you don't have that experience anymore. Because your intellect wasn't there to understand who you were. So you cannot be negated. You can never, that means what? You don't have to worry about dying. Okay? People who know who they are don't die. Because they're not people who know who they are, they're themselves. As soon as you understand that, you're free of this whole worry about living and dying. You're not, it doesn't matter. You know that the body dies, the body's born, the body dies, it has nothing to do with you. It's just an event. You think that you go away when your body goes away? You don't go away when your body goes away, do you? Because your body goes away in deep sleep, doesn't it? Huh? But you don't go away. You just revert to experiencing yourself without a body. Well, why is it going to be any different when the body dies? In fact, when you go to sleep, you don't know if you're going to wake up or not, do you? You don't know if your body's going to come back or not, do you? You have no idea whether you're going to be looking out through these eyes again, observing things through these eyes again. You don't know. So there's no death for you. Which means what? You get to live here, you get to really enjoy this life here. Because everything I'm doing here, I'm worried about dying, aren't I? I mean, the reason I'm running so hard here in this reality is what? Because I want to cram in all these experiences before I die.
Bucket list.
Huh? My bucket list, yeah. The bucket list, you got these old guys, old geezers, they all this stuff they want to do. Huh? Huh? Because they think they're going to die. Okay, here's is a good one. This is a tricky one. Is liberation absolute knowledge? Why or why not? No. Why isn't liberation absolute knowledge? Huh? Because liberation is for the individual who lives in the apparent reality, isn't it? Isn't it? There's no liberation for the self, is there? Because the self is already liberated. Well, he doesn't even say it's liberated. It's ever free. It was never ever bound by anything, huh? So, if liberation is for the person, then then just simply knowing that I'm non-dual, actionless, ordinary awareness is not going to solve my problem, is it? I need mithya knowledge too, don't I? I need knowledge of the factors that are operating in my world. I need knowledge of the apparent reality as well as the absolute reality. Because moksha is how I negotiate in the apparent reality with the knowledge that I'm what? Consciousness. So self-knowledge is complete knowledge. It's the knowledge of these two factors, satya and mithya, the subject and the object, and how they relate to each other. Then your knowledge is complete. This is why the modern teachings don't produce enlightenment. They just produce experiences and claims of enlightenment. Because they deny that what? That the apparent reality even exists. Right? That's the teaching. There is no world. You don't exist. There's no jiva. There's no ignorance. There's no. Everything they negate. Well, then how are you going to live here if you're not here? You didn't come here not to be here. Think about it. That's what they're telling you. You came here not to be here. Think of that. That's the weirdest teaching I ever heard, isn't it? Huh? You are here as a person. That's a fact. It's just, you can't say that you don't exist and you're not here and you're not supposed to be. You know, people were there's somebody who's said that about me. So somebody told me that somebody said, "Oh, that Ram, he's so not here." Of course that Ram is here. I experienced that Ram. So you can't experience something that doesn't exist, that's not here. It's impossible. So that whole teaching, huh, that what is it doing? It's saying that only absolute knowledge is what? Moksha. But no, absolute and relative knowledge, those two things need to be what? Known. That's why we teach. Otherwise, why would we teach, the three gunas and the three bodies and the three states and the jiva and all these things? Why would we waste our time teaching that? What's the point? Why doesn't the scripture say, or your awareness, and that's the end of it? If that's moksha, then that's all the scripture's going to say, isn't it? And that's all you need to know. But no, you don't need to know just that. That's obviously an essential part of the knowledge, but it's only part of it. Because what? I'm only doing this because I want to live happily here, aren't I? So this liberation is for the jiva, because the jiva thinks it's bound. It's not for the self. It's not for you, for the self. You're already free. Yeah, that's all. So you can't live happily unless you understand what this world is. Just denying it or avoiding it or renouncing it or trying to manipulate it and control it that's not, it doesn't work. It's not the problem, it's not freedom. 4, when the jiva is negated as not self, okay, so we're saying this jiva person is not you. That's called negation. When you negate that person, does that person cease to exist? What about all these people that tell you you have to stop existing as a person, you have to stop thinking and kill your ego? You have to get rid of your ego and you have to stop thinking. And then what? And then you'll be enlightened. But aren't you awareness when your ego's there operating? How can your ego operate unless awareness is present? So getting rid of the ego isn't going to what? Produce awareness, is it? It's not going to produce the experience of moksha or freedom, is it?
No.
Huh? No, it's not going to produce it. Huh?
It's already there.
It's already there. Correct. It's already there. It's like when you go to sleep. It's the same thing. You're already there when you go to sleep, huh? Aren't you? You're present as awareness when you're awake. You're present as awareness when you're asleep. So when the jiva stops being the waking jiva, stops being the waking jiva and goes to sleep, huh? It has no effect on you. And when the waking jiva reappears in you in awareness, what? It has no effect on you. These three entities, this waker, dreamer, and deep sleeper, just appear and disappear in you over and over and over again. That's life. Life is just these three states of experience. Cycling in what? In front of you, in your awareness. Manufactured out of you by Maya. So no, it continues to exist, it's just known to be what? Unreal. That's all, like a mirage. Moksha is called conditioned superimposition. It's not like the snake and the rope. This is where people get confused. They say, because you know the snake and the rope story. So a person mistakes a rope for a snake, and then when somebody tells them that it's a rope, then the snake disappears. So people think that when you get enlightened, then what the world should disappear. Okay? If the world isn't gone, then I'm not enlightened. That's how they think. Can you imagine that? People actually believe that. A lot of them walk around kind of like zombies, pretending like they're not here, like they're, huh? No, it's a funny thing. You see them in India sometimes, pretending like they're not here. to prove to, I guess, others that they're enlightened, because obviously you are here, so. No, enlightenment is conditioned superimposition. That's a mirage on the desert. When the mirage on the desert is only real as long as you don't understand that it's a mirage, isn't it? But when you understand that it's a mirage, the mirage doesn't go away, does it? It stays. So this person and the body and the mind and your circumstances are going to remain once you know who you are. There's not going to there's going to be no change of any empirical facts here. All that's going to change is the status of the world in your mind. You'll no longer take the world to be real. It will be known to be what? Unreal, apparently real. That's all. So what? If it's apparently real, can it what? Can it attract you? No. Can it repel you? Can it scare you? No. It won't be an object of fear. It won't be an object of desire. Why? Because it's not real. When you go to a movie, you don't, I mean, yes, you have feelings. You have desire for the beautiful, sexy things, and you're scared when the big monster comes up. But you know very well none of that's real, right? Even though you allow yourself to experience those emotions, you know very well they're not real. Isn't it? No, it continues to exist. Now this is a tricky one. Is the statement, I'm enlightened because I'm experiencing the self directly all the time? This is a statement people make. Say, I'm enlightened because I'm experiencing the self directly all the time. Is that direct knowledge or is that indirect knowledge?
Indirect.
Indirect, good. Hey, good for you. Right. It's indirect because it does not negate the experiencer, and it leaves the self as an object of experience. Unless how would you make that direct? He would say, because I am experiencing the self as the self directly all the time. If you put as the self in there, means what? The platform from which he's seeing himself is the self, and not what? The jiva, or the individual. So indirect knowledge is what? Takes the self to be an object of knowledge, an object of experience. And direct knowledge is what? I am the self. Now there's nothing to say about that. What can you say about that? And that, so, this is why the people that claim that I got enlightened, that I was ignorant before and then I got enlightened, that's not correct, is it? Well, because self-knowledge is I'm the self. That's direct knowledge. And the self was what? Is consciousness. When you say I'm the self, it means I'm limitless consciousness. And when was limitless consciousness not limitless consciousness? When was it? Well, I'm the light. You're saying I'm the light. So when were you not the light? Well, you were never not the light. So you can't make the claim that you're enlightened. All you can say is I'm the light and know what it means. And what is direct knowledge? I'm awareness. That's number 6. And what is the benefit of that? As far as there's no benefit for the self, is there? I'm awareness. The self isn't going around saying I'm awareness. There's no need, because it knows. I mean, you don't go around all day, like I don't go around all day saying I'm James, I'm James, I'm James, I'm James, do I? I mean, if you ask me, I may say I'm James to settle your mind, but as far as I'm concerned, I don't have to go around and say I'm James, I'm James, I'm James all the time, do I? It's not required, huh? But I'm awareness. What does that knowledge do? What's the benefit of the jiva knowing that? It allows the jiva to manage its desires. Because then I can look at my desires from the point of view of who I really am. And my desire, when I look at my desires from the point of view of what I really am, they don't have the same binding power, do they? That they have when I look at them from what? Point of view of being this incomplete, inadequate, experiencing jiva person. And what else does it do? It eliminates doership, doesn't it? If you say I'm the self, you can't think you're a doer, can you? Why? Because the self can't do it, you can't do, because it's non-dual. Non-dual means it's not a doer, doesn't it? When you say I'm not a doer, you actually, that statement means what? I'm limitless, non-dual, actionless, ordinary awareness. It doesn't mean I, the jiva, is not a doer. The jiva is always a doer. It has no choice about action. Because I, awareness, am shining on this entity, this apparent entity, and what? It can't help but act. When I shine my light on this person, it just keeps acting from womb to tomb. Activity is a signature of what? The life activity is a signature of what? Of consciousness shining on this body. So.
Is it really acting, or is it just think it's acting?
Well, it thinks it's acting, yeah. It's apparently acting.
Apparently.
There you go, Christian. That's good. Yeah, that's very good. It's just apparently acting. And what else does it do? It stops your seeking. When your seeking stops, it means, and this we know. I know this. I can tell from people. I don't like just like X-ray people to see if they're enlightened. I don't care, because I see people, everybody's a self anyway, so I don't really care. But people will come to me, or they'll write emails and they'll say, my seeking stopped. What happened? Say I stopped seeking. And there's only one answer to that. You've assimilated the knowledge that you're awareness. Now you may not think you're finished yet, but you actually are finished when the seeking stops. Because the doer's been what? Neutralized by the knowledge. So there's no more an attempt to what? To get anything or create new circumstances. To what? To what it says in the Bhagavad Gita to, what was the words it used there? Initiate new undertakings. You just act out what's in you from that point on. But you don't try to set up circumstances to what? Create new experiences that you think are going to make a difference. That's all seeking is. It's trying to get a different circumstances that you think will make you happy. Happier or less miserable. Which is, So it stops the seeking. That's the benefit. It's great not to seek. That's a positive thing. A lot of people don't want that knowledge. Actually, I've discovered that because they've made a lifestyle out of seeking. And they can't imagine life without what? Seeking. Without going to gurus and doing all this stuff and being seekers. They don't even know how to live here without seeking something. So they resist this idea that they're whole and complete. And they stick with the notion that they're incomplete and that I could never get enlightened. That's only for the great big ones. That's only for the Buddhas. That's only for the Christs. For the great Mahatmas only. Those are the only ones. Poor little me, I couldn't possibly get enlightened. No, anybody can get enlightened if they understand that they're the self, and that the self is what? Whole and complete. So the seeking stops. Why, number 7, why is self-inquiry not asking the question, who am I? Well, because the answer is already known. See? There is a silly notion in the spiritual world that, that self-inquiry is, close your eyes, get quiet, now ask, who am I? And wait for the answer. That was one of the famous gurus of in recent years. That was his teaching. That, excuse me, the jury's not out on who you are. See, we don't need to ask that question because it's very clear your awareness. That's what the scripture says. We don't, we're not going to, and even if what God himself came and said, you're limitless, non-dual actionless, ordinary awareness, God in the flesh appeared as a 200-foot tall person. You are limitless awareness! Huh? What would you make of that? Huh? What would you do with it? Would that change? Yeah. What would that do? Would that change anything? It wouldn't change anything at all. You'd just probably get a great big ego and go around writing on the internet that God appeared to you and told you you were enlightened. So the jury's not out on that. The answer's already known. That we start from that premise that you're already the self. We teach the self. The self's the only one here that can understand this. The jiva doesn't understand this. We teach the self. So we see you as enlightened already. So we don't have to get you enlightened. I don't have to worry about getting you enlightened because I see you as the light. My job is to teach the scripture, and that takes away your ignorance about that. It doesn't get you self. You're already the self, so not to worry. But what is self? But on the other hand, why do they use the word inquiry? Because inquiry means asking a question. This is number 8. What is this? What is self-inquiry according to Vedanta? Well, what does the word inquiry mean? It means asking a question, but what question are you asking? Why is the way I'm thinking, right, not in harmony with or not in harmony with what? Who I really am. You already know who you really are, then why aren't you thinking like the self? Why, huh? Why am I thinking like this small, little, inadequate, needy, fearful person? Why am I doing that? That doesn't make a lot of sense when I'm actually this, does it? So always is what? So Vedanta is called jnana abhyasa, and it means the practice of knowledge. Now it seems weird to practice knowledge, but that's all we do here anyway, isn't it? Like a lawyer practices knowledge, a veterinarian practices knowledge. Everybody practices some kind of knowledge. A cop practices cop knowledge, whatever it is. A mechanic practices. So we're just practicing self-knowledge here. We're applying this teaching to our own mind. That's all. So I need to always ask myself this question. Why am I not thinking and acting like I'm full and complete? Number 9, Vedanta says the I, the self is limitless. We covered this earlier, but it bears repeating. Okay, let's stop on the word I for a second. This is where you see the self. This is where you experience the self all the time. The word I is what? A word that refers to what? To the self. That's what it is. So whenever you say I, you're actually just what? Referring to the self. So it says this self is this I, the self is limitless. Limitlessness, the question is, limitless does not mean big. Okay? People, the word Brahman that they use in Sanskrit, it's not a good word. It's okay for somebody who's been trained in the Vedanta Sampradaya in Sanskrit in India with an Indian guru. Then it's a good word. But for us it's not a good word because our idea of Brahman is big. And that's one of the meanings of the word Brahman. It means what's vast or big. Right? Now, but but limitless doesn't mean big. Okay? Limitless doesn't mean big. Why not? Because the self, there's nothing other than the self, so what? So there's no small to compare it to, is there? If reality is non-dual, you can't say anything's big or anything small because there's no duality. There's no big and small. So the word is not a good. The word "big" is not a good word for limitless. You're not going to get vast and powerful. Okay? A lot of people, huh? You see people parading around, acting big. The ones who realize the self, Adi-da, and these kind of people, huh? Swaggering around, telling big, I'm controlling this and I'm controlling that and I'm big and bow down to me and blah 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 blah. But that's not what limitless means. Limitless means what? I don't change. When things change, I don't change. I'm not limited or modified by what happens. That's all it means. Self isn't big and it isn't small. In fact, the scripture says it's bigger than the biggest and smaller than the smallest. Which means what? It has no size at all. 10. The truth is what is always good. We're dealing with another aspect of the self now. The truth is what is always good. Why are you the truth? Why are you the truth? Not what you believe, think, and feel. Most people think that what they believe, think, and feel is the truth. But why are you the truth?
Don't change.
Yes, that's true. Absolutely. Because the way I see things, but we're going to talk about it in terms of desire or love. Because the way I see things is based upon my desire to please myself. Okay, that's the first statement. You do what you do and see and think what you think and feel what you feel, what? To please yourself, don't you? I mean, you claim you're doing it for everybody else, but you know very well you're not. You're actually doing it to please yourself. So what? And the desire to please yourself, what does that mean about yourself? What does that mean about your relationship to yourself? It means you love yourself. Huh? If you didn't love yourself, you wouldn't have the desire to please yourself. Everything you do is what? It's a desire to please yourself. Huh? You love yourself first before you love anything else. All the other loves come after the love of yourself. It's for your sake that you love the person, not for their sake. Okay? Because yourself is most valuable. It's always good. What's always good is you, not anything else. Right? Not that there is anything else, but when you're ignorant, you think there's something else. Which means what? I'm always good. I'm what's always good. If I'm what's always good, do I have to do anything to be good? Is there anything I can do to be virtuous? Because a lot of us don't feel virtuous. Right? We feel like we're sinners. Just to use a gross word, feel like we're sinners. But if you're always good, then you don't have to prove or validate yourself by doing anything good, do you? So this whole desire, Anyway. The truth is reality. 11. The truth is reality. If you know the truth, you will not pursue objects for happiness because, question mark. In other words, why, if you know the truth, you will not pursue objects for happiness? Why won't you pursue objects for happiness?
You are happiness.
Yeah, you are happiness, and what? What's the other one? The objects aren't real. You, huh? You are happiness, and I better put that in here. So we'll just... yeah. Okay. That's 2. And objects are not real. Why do you pursue objects? Because you think they're real. If you knew that relationship love wasn't real, would you pursue it? No. Huh? You want to fall in love because you believe that falling in love is real. Right? If you knew that it wasn't, then what? You wouldn't pursue the objects. Huh? Understand? Even if objects were real, let's throw a bone to the samsaris, the egos. Okay, let's see. Even if the objects are real, okay, you say everything here that you're experiencing is real. You say that. Okay, we grant you that. Give the most compelling reason why you will not pursue them if you know who you really are. Because I'm full.
You're
Complete.
whole and complete.
Yeah, I'm whole and complete. There you go.
I'm already the love.
Yeah, I'm already the love. The love is me. The power is me. The security is me. I'm already secure. Why do I need to secure myself here? What's to secure? I'm already the source. I'm already pleasure. I am pleasure itself. I'm always satisfied. That's what ananda means. That's what sat, chit, anandam. Sat means what? What is, consciousness. Chit means consciousness. Sat means what exists. And what? And ananda means bliss. They're all synonyms for what? So that means experientially, I'm always satisfied. Without what? Without reference to an object. I do not need any object to be satisfied with myself.
And the objects are me.
Yeah, the objects are me, but I'm not the objects. There you go. Good for you, Don. Yeah. The objects are me. I've already got everything. Every object is, we did this last night, every object is just me. We went through this, we went through the logic carefully, didn't we? The objects are, so I already have everything. Why would I chase it? Because everything is only experienced in me. Nothing is actually experienced outside at all. Outside means what? There's no outside. There's only outside when I think I'm the body, right? But the body is an object too, isn't it? To me. 13. Why will you stop trying to fix yourself when you know who you really are? Well, because you're perfect as you are. And because I know that the part of me that's imperfect is what? Actually mithya. There's a part of you that's perfect. We're using parts now, okay, relatively speaking. There's a part of you that's always perfect. So that's called the self or consciousness. So there's nothing you can do about that. So you can't fix that. But why can't you fix this imperfect part, this person part? Because it's not actually real. It's a projection. Huh? So if it's not real, how can you fix it? Huh? See, you're assuming that this person is real and you want to fix it. But it's not real, so how are you going to fix it? See the love, I mean, when you understand this, see the love that you suddenly have for yourself, for your jiva, for your person. It's total acceptance. Love is totally accepting it. You totally accept this person that you are, you know, that you appear as. Because there's nothing else you could, there's no option, other option.
But now we do work at cleaning up the vasanas.
Yeah, only until what? Only until you're clear about what satya and mithya is, and then once you're clear about that the vasanas are mithya, then you don't have to clean them up, do you?
Because they're non-binding.
Yeah, they're not, yeah, they don't bind me. They bind they create a disturbance in the mind. But when I know who I am, even if my mind is disturbed, it doesn't matter, does it? I'm pretty dull because I've been traveling, you know, and I came from Europe here recently and so forth and so on. But it doesn't have anything to do with me at all. I mean, I meaning what? The mind, my mind. So what? So once you know this, once you understand that the vasanas are mithya, you don't have to worry about them. So, because if you're getting rid of the vasanas, what are you saying? Well, they're real. And you would only get rid of them if you thought you, the person who was trying to get rid of them, was real also. So they're real for you because you think you're this person that's this imperfect person. So you take them to be somehow limiting you. But they actually, vasanas don't limit you as a person, because your person's not real and they're not real, and they don't limit the self either.
No binding vasanas.
So there's no binding vasanas, just an idea in consciousness in you. That's all. There's no binding, there's no non-binding vasanas. There's just the idea of binding and non-binding. If what? You take yourself to be a jiva. So in the event that you don't understand that you're consciousness, then we assume that you're a jiva, and so then we got a little teaching for you. And that little teaching is, okay, go ahead and work on your binding vasanas. I'll give you something to do.
You can be a seeker.
Huh?
You can be a seeker then.
Yeah, you can be a seeker and you can fix yourself and you can do all that stuff because you don't want to accept your identity. You don't want to. Why is the teaching that objects are non-existent not true? I always have to go at this one. But Vedanta's been arguing this point for like thousands of years. We got them today, the non-existence, the shunya. They were called the Shunyata Buddhists years ago, but now it's Tony Parsons and the crew. That, you know, this doesn't exist, you don't exist, blah 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 blah. And the answer, we already gave it. We have to give it again, over and over and over again, because you can't experience something that doesn't exist. And if you say you don't exist, which is what Tony Parsons says, that's not possible, is it? Because you are existence itself. Existence exists. Existence never non-exists. There is no such thing as non-existence apart from the concept of non-existence. There's only the concept non-existence, but it doesn't refer to an actual object. Because everything is only existence. Everything is only awareness, existence. Awareness and existence are One, there's no difference between awareness and existence. We mentioned that last night. You cannot be aware unless you exist, and you can't exist unless you're aware, can you? It's like the chicken and the egg. Huh? One is completely dependent upon the other there, huh? Which came first, the chicken or the egg? There's no first, is there? There's no first, because one's totally dependent upon the other. They're in exactly the same order of reality. So there's no first, which means what? Creation is just a projection. So you can't experience it, something doesn't exist. This person that I think I am exists. It's just not real. Understand? See, that trying the non-existence thing is trying to destroy something that, they're trying to get rid of something that exists, but you can't get rid of something that exists. Why? Because existence, everything that exists is just existence. In other words, existence is existing, and nobody has ever destroyed existence. There's no action that can destroy existence, because in order to what? To destroy existence, you have to exist. So how are you going to do it? So you can't get rid of the ego, and you can't get rid of the mind, and you can't get rid of any of those things. They exist, but they're not real. There's the freedom. If you're trying to get rid of something that exists, forget it. Why are objects not real? Simple, because they change from one moment to the next. What you know of an object is what? Only a thought of the object. And that thought is what? Always changing. There is no object out there. There's that you can actually know. You can only know the thought of an object. Then how long does the thought of an object last? As long as what? The thought remains in the mind, and then it disappears when the next thought appears. And those thoughts appear one after another, don't they? So what do you actually know? Though the subject and objects are both awareness, why are they not the same?
One changes and one doesn't.
Yeah. They're in different orders of reality. Okay, just to give you an example of that. You have a completely dark room. Totally dark. No light coming in at all. Absolutely hermetically sealed. It's completely dark, and inside that room is a man. He's asleep, and he's dreaming a bright light. He's dreaming a radiant bright light, just incredible light, just brilliant. Now, does that light? It's exactly the same place. The darkness and the light are right there together. Why doesn't that light illumine some of the room? Even if you have a tiny light in a dark room, it'll produce enough light to know that you're in a room. But the darkness in that room, will not be affected one iota by the presence of this brilliant white light that's shining right there with it, side by side.
There are different orders.
Different orders of existence.
Yeah, that's all. So these objects are like the dark room. All objects are what? Are black holes. You could call them mini black holes. What do? They're made out of matter. They have no reflective substance. So they're what? So they absorb the light. So you can shine a million, you know, you can shine all the light you want to on it, but what, they're like black holes. The gravity is so heavy that light can't escape. That's how the scientists describe it. It's their explanation for it. It's a good explanation. In empirical reality, it works. They noticed the same thing we noticed about matter. That, there's no light in it. It's inert. Understand? So they're in different orders of the same reality. If you understand Satya and Mithya, you don't need Vedanta. Okay? So all Vedanta is Satya Mithya. That's it. If you get this, that's it. You don't have to study anything else.
And I am the objects, but the objects are not me.
No, the objects are me, but I'm not the objects. That's
Yeah.
right. Good for you. You caught. Well, the fact that you caught yourself means that you're awareness, that you know. That's right. It's only just understanding what platform I'm looking at. And this is tricky because, you know, there's only one thing here, but it looks like there's two. It really looks like duality is a reality. And I'm so used to taking the appearance of things to be the reality of things that I'm constantly what? Fooled. Why is it not possible to change the subject or the objects? Well, we already talked about this. The subject, consciousness, you don't change, and what? And the objects aren't real. So, same idea we had before. Can't change something that's not real. And something that's real you can't change either, so there's no change involved here at all. It's only apparent change, dream change. This is why in the Bhagavad Gita Krishna says, what's Krishna say? The wise grieve neither for the dead nor for the living. What? That's all there is. Huh? There's only living beings and dead objects, and wise people don't have any problem with either one. That those objects, living and dead things, don't have any effect on them whatsoever. That's the idea. Oh, how are we doing here? Well, we're doing okay. (18) Ishwara, the creator, is it still working here? Huh? Good, you got a good signal, huh? 18. Ishwara, the creator, is conscious of all material objects and sentient beings. Okay? Jiva is conscious of its body and environment. Ishwara does not depend on Jiva, even though Jiva depends on Ishwara. It should be. It seems. But in what way is Ishwara dependent?
On the self? On consciousness?
Yeah. Ishwara depends on consciousness, doesn't it?
Because consciousness animates all this.
Yeah, because without consciousness, Ishwara can't create, can it?
Mhm.
So Ishwara is dependent, a dependent factor. Jiva is dependent upon Ishwara, and Ishwara is dependent upon consciousness, isn't it?
That was the wrong way of saying it.
What's that? Okay. And now here's a really tricky one. Okay. But Ishwara depends upon Jiva too. Why? This is a tricky one. Why? Because the creation has no meaning without Jiva, does it? Can you imagine a creation without Jivas? What's a creation? Consciousness and just matter? There's no reason to talk about it. There's no scripture, there's no people, there's no nothing, is there? So is there any creation that has any meaning? No. In fact, both Ishwara and Jiva are interdependent. They're just factors like the chicken and the egg. Understand? Jiva is creating what? Karma, owing to its ignorance. But Jiva cannot deliver the fruits of its actions. In other words, it can't deliver the results of its karma, can it? There has to be another factor that what? Is delivering the results of the action. That's Ishwara. So Ishwara depends upon Jiva's ignorance to what? Deliver the results of the action. So is Jiva real? No. Is Ishwara real? No. They're both what? Dependent upon each other.
Aren't they the same?
Yeah, they're the same. They're one, but they're the same but different.
Apparently different.
Yeah, they're both in Maya, understand? The creator and the created are both what? Mutually interdependent. Because it makes no sense to talk about a creation without creatures, does it? You got to have a creature to have a creation. Because from the self's point of view, from Ishwara 1, I've got Ishwara 1 and Ishwara 2. Ishwara 1 means pure consciousness. From the self's point of view, there's no point in even talking about a creation, is there? It's only from the point of view of Ishwara 2, that is consciousness plus Maya, that we can talk about a creation. But there's no point in talking about a creation because the scripture says, you know, apart from Ishwara, Jiva, why? Because the scripture says that what? It's for the enjoyment of Jiva that Ishwara creates the objects, the material world. So Ishwara creates Jagat Karanam, Ishwara creates all the material objects, what? For the benefit of the Jivas. Because how are the Jivas going to work out their karma if what? If there isn't a material world. So God, So the whole idea of God and the individual is just what? Only mitya, it's Maya. We need to have that teaching here because you've got to get out of this idea that you're controlled by this big daddy called Ishwara. Okay? This people blame, but people want to stay small. And the reason, and so they've got a really clever spiritual excuse for being small and for suffering. They say Ishwara is doing it to me. But Ishwara is only facilitating your karma, dummy. So if you don't like your circumstances, change your circumstances, and Ishwara will give you different circumstances. That's all. So who's the boss? Ishwara's the boss, or Jiva's the boss? Think about it. You create you can create, this is the sense in which you create your own reality.
So if the jiva supplies the cause, but Ishvara is delivering the effects,
That's right.
well then the jiva is creating.
Absolutely. And the jiva is called Jiva Shristi and Ishwara Shristi. Both are creating. The jiva is just not creating the total. Ishwara is creating the total and it's delivering the results of jiva's action. So that's correct, Don. Good for you. Good thinking. Yeah. The power of Maya exists in jiva as well as in Ishwara. It's just that because the upadhi of jiva is small and limited, its creation is not big, like Ishwara's. Ishwara's creation is actually only big because Jiva's is small. So, in the Maya world, we're talking dimensionality and size and time and space. So we can talk about big and small. We can talk about the total and the individual. But actually, they're just, it's like the chicken and the egg. You don't have a chicken without the egg, and you don't have an egg without the chicken. There's no, so that, there's no bigger or first or anything here. Big and small or anything. Because without the chicken, so the egg depends upon the chicken, but the chicken depends upon the egg, doesn't it? Ishwara depends upon the jiva, and jiva depends upon the Ishwara. So, means what? You're free of both. And this we all know. 19, why can't pure original awareness, Paramatma, or Ishwara 1, I like to call it Ishwara 1, create without the help of Ishwara? Well, because it's non-dual, it can't be modified. It can only be modified by what? By Maya. And that isn't an actual modification, that's an apparent modification. You know, huh? And the example we use there is cheese and milk. You can make milk into cheese, but you can never get the milk back when you've transformed the milk into the cheese, can you? So if Maya has turned awareness into this world, then there's no way we're going to get enlightened and go back to awareness, is there? So that transformation of what? Of consciousness into this world is only an apparent transformation. It's not an actual transformation. Maya generates the illusion of what? Of a world. And that illusion is so sexy and so beautiful and so powerful and so exotic and so exciting and so varied and so dynamic. It's just totally attractive to us, and we take it to be real. 20. Ishwara seems to control jiva, but it actually doesn't. Why? Because one unreal thing cannot control another unreal thing.
Can it apparently control it?
They can apparently control. You see how this teaching, it just neutralizes everything, but it leaves you what? Present and aware and blissful. - 21. Because jiva is consciousness and matter, jiva is a combination of consciousness and matter, it is confused about its true nature. This confusion is called superimposition. How is superimposition removed? And the answer, by discrimination. By separating what? The material, the matter, from the self, from consciousness. For jiva's point of view, it's separating what? The 5 sheaths. The physical, the energy sheath, the emotional sheath, the intellect sheath, and the bliss sheath. Separating all those from the self. And that separation is what? Only done in your, cognitively, in your understanding. And you've got to do it. You can't just jump over and say, I'm awareness, without going through it and negating those sheaths and what? Removing whatever identification you have with what? Your physical body, with your physiological systems, with your emotional body, with your intellect body, with your thought body, and with your bliss body. You have to go through it and understand in what sense those things are not you and they're not real. And then what? Then you can claim your nature as awareness. Then you're a discriminated person. So in every situation, that's all that's ever happening is what? Is a material object is appearing. The thoughts are material objects. Feelings are material objects. Feelings and thoughts are no, they're not sentient. So in every situation, there's only consciousness present and what? Material objects. And discrimination is just knowing the difference, not confusing the two. And that discrimination is called viveka, and that is called moksha. It means freedom from confusion. I don't take something to be real that isn't real. I know what's real and I know what isn't real, and what? I don't confuse them, so I'm free. The fruit of self-knowledge is limitless bliss. Does this mean that the jiva feels good all the time and never suffers pain? No. Why? Because jiva's in what? In the apparent reality where pleasure and pain exist, and it's going to suffer and enjoy according to its karma. The jiva can, if it knows how to live properly, basically avoid 90% of the pain and the suffering, but there will be suffering and pain for the jiva to some degree. 23. I went to the store. I am thirsty. I am happy. I know you. I am blissful are 5 common statements this jiva makes. Why are they ignorance?
Because the I is misidentified.
That's right. The I is not a doer, enjoyer, experiencer. So to say I walked, how can the self walk? It doesn't have any legs. Where's it going to walk to? How can the self feel? It doesn't have any feelings. How can the self think? It doesn't have a mind. It's free of the mind. Right? It's pure consciousness. It doesn't need to think. It doesn't waste its time thinking. It's totally satisfied with itself all the time. It doesn't have to think. It doesn't need a mind to get objects and to think and so forth, and manipulate things and to move and so forth and so on, because it's always happy, right? And what? And I'm blissful. No, I am bliss. Bliss means full and complete. The word is anandam. Anantam. There's 2 words, anantam and anandam. Anantam means limitless, and limitless means what? Full and complete. It doesn't mean I feel good all the time. It means I'm satisfied with myself. Right? But the anandam that we feel here, the experiential bliss, is what? A consequence of what? That limitlessness of my own existence, my own awareness. The 3, and then in the chapter I gave a couple examples of teachings. One was the 3-state analysis. That's the Mandukya Upanishad. 24. The 3-state analysis reveals 2 basic facts. What are they? 1, what? The self is not an experiencing entity. Why not? Because the experiencing entities there's 3 of them, and they appear and disappear, don't they? But the self is always present, so it can't be an experiencing entity. If you for you to get to sleep at night, what has to happen? You have to stop being a waker. So you have to cease being a waker to go to sleep. For you to be a dream, you have to what? You have to stop sleeping. So you have to cease being a deep sleeper to become a dreamer. And for you to wake up, you have to stop being what? A dreamer, and live in that state, and what? And wake up and become a waker. Which means that what? Which one are you? Which one of those 3 are you? You're not none of those 3. You're none of those 3.
Or all of them.
Yeah. All of them are you, but you're not all of them. Okay? If you say you're all of them, then you got a problem. So all of them are you. In other words, out of your consciousness, what? The waking state appears, and simultaneously with the waking state appears an awaker, and then when Ishwara, when that waking state ends, then what? A dream state appears, and a dream entity appears in the wake, to experience the dream. And then when that ends, what? The deep sleep experience comes, and what? The deep sleeping entity appears, right? And then it disappears when the waker comes or the dreamer comes. So those entities in those states are not real. They appear and they disappear. They're manifest first and then unmanifest, or they're unmanifest first and then manifest. So they're always appearing and disappearing in what? In me. I'm present in all three. Without me there, I can't sleep, I can't wake, and I can't dream. So the three-state analysis negates my what? Belief in myself as an experiencing entity, and proves that what? I'm limitless, ever-present consciousness. And finally, right on the money. Good, 25. The thought I am limited, inadequate, and incomplete creates an endless stream of fears and desires. How can the jiva remove this thought? And the answer is by asserting its wholeness and completeness as ever full awareness. We call that pratipaksha bhavana. It's applying the opposite thought. And how does that work? How do you know? You don't, when you have a desire, you don't think, I'm limited and inadequate and incomplete, do you? The desire is a proxy for that belief. The fact that you say, I want, means that you think the I is incomplete. That's all. The fact that I don't want means it's a proxy for the idea that the I is incomplete. So what do you have to do? Whenever you have a fear or a desire coming up, you need to what? Assert your wholeness. In other words, look for the light, not the hand. Remember? I said, what is this? What do you see here? You said a hand, and I said, no. You see a hand and you see light. Well, just look at the light. The hand is present, but the light is always present. So I just switch my attention and assert myself as awareness. And that breaks that tendency to think of myself as what? Small, inadequate, and incomplete. Because I have knowledge now of what awareness is. I'm whole, I'm complete, I'm limitless, I'm always present. These are just simple facts about me. I don't change, I don't modify, so forth and so on. It's only a handful of facts about myself that I need to know. If I've got that knowledge, then what? I stay with that knowledge and not with that person, that part of myself that is empowering its fears and desires. By what? By ignorance. It's only ignorance to insist that you need something. That's all. It's not the truth. Okay, good. And as far as questions go, well, were there any questions on here? No. Maybe, but they can write in. If you got any questions, write in. Oh yeah, we can have a few here, but as far as the lesson goes, yeah, Christian.
Well, something I didn't quite understand, you were talking about when we're aware of an object that exists,
Yeah.
and then when we're not, it doesn't. Is that accurate?
Yes. Okay, well, yeah, go a little further with that.
Okay, well, what I'm thinking is let's say you go into deep sleep, and then you come back, and everything is pretty much
everything's the same.
the same. What keeps that consistency?
Ishwara, Maya. Maya creates the whole field, and Maya or Ishwara is independent of jiva as a creator. So Ishwara sustains the creation for billions of years. Right? And so my jiva only can sustain its creation for what? 70 years, 60 or 70 years. and it goes out. And Ishwara, jiva is always in Ishwara. The jiva is always in this field. The field doesn't disappear when the jiva disappears. Jivas appear in the field and disappear out of it. So when the jiva goes to sleep or dies, then when it's reborn or it wakes up in Ishwara, and this field is the same. Yeah, it's really cool. It's so cool, isn't it? Because, like, when you go to sleep at night, why don't you wake up with somebody else's karma? Like, why don't, when you go to sleep, why don't you wake up with my karma? Huh? Or when I go to sleep, why don't I get your karma? Thank you very much, I won't mind, but... but I have no choice about it, do you?
Well, how would you know?
Huh?
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
How would you know? That's right. How do I know that when I woke up this morning that I wasn't somebody else in my last time I was awake?
Well, because you're the awareness. So awareness is present before and after every state.
Does it include memory?
That's right.
Well, yeah, sure. How can you say you slept if you weren't present? You can infer it, and inference is a valid means of knowledge.
Right. It's inference.
But the same awareness here is present there in all states.
So, Ron,
Yes.
there's two paragraphs on page 188 that I think, for me, just sums up so much of the process of discrimination, talking about negation and discrimination. It's non-intellectual.
Read it, yeah.
To simply assert that an object is not real is only a preliminary step. You have to actually refuse to indulge the vasanas, pushing or pulling you into experiences until they are rendered non-binding. And it talks about the work that you have to do, resisting the desires, and there may be pain.
Yeah, there is. Like when you want to quit smoking or quit, that's a good thing to do, but it's painful, isn't it? You think, well, I'm doing the right thing, it should be pleasurable. No, it's not. It's painful, isn't it? As you're standing up, you're resisting these vasanas. You have to break them somehow if you're taking a position, of a jiva. Yes, you do.
Yeah. I like too that ignorance cannot support itself. He said, well, who's supporting it then?
Yeah. No, jiva's supporting it.
Yeah.
Huh? Yeah, then jiva doesn't, this is why when you have knowledge, your ignorance goes. When you accept the knowledge of yourself, then your ignorance goes. Ignorance isn't going to keep itself going. Huh?
Is that what you were saying when you're saying the jiva, that's how jiva is part of the creation?
Yeah, sure. You know, like we're actually willfully ignorant. You don't know it. I mean, because you have a choice. You have a choice to see yourself as you are, as the scripture says you are. And this is not anybody's opinion. This is just knowledge. So you have the choice to accept that. And when you do that, ignorance goes. It's actually a choice you make. And why you wouldn't make that choice was only because you don't understand what it means to make that choice, that's all.
That's right.
Because that's the best choice you can make in life, is to free yourself of ignorance. And that's just to accept yourself as perfect and pure and holy and good. That's all it is.
So we choose ignorance out of ignorance.
Yeah, we choose ignorance. So we choose ignorance out of ignorance. There's some payoff in ignorance to thinking that you're not okay, that something's missing. I don't know what it is exactly, but
Then you get to keep the I as the body.
yeah, and you get a lot of commiseration, you know, because everybody else, you get to be part of something. Yeah, isn't that right?
Get to socialize.
You get to, yeah, you get to socialize.
It's the drama, right?
The drama, yeah, and all of that. And it's so tiring. Huh? It's just so terribly tiring. It's awful. When you can just let your mind dissolve in awareness and just sit still and just enjoy without any desire or fear. Just enjoy, be satisfied and enjoy yourself. Why keep all of that stuff going? You know, if you're free to choose knowledge. You don't even have to get rid of ignorance or gain knowledge, actually. You just have to know what knowledge is and ignorance is, and then you see that what? Your awareness. Well, at least I won't get in trouble. We got the video and the audio. We're going to post the audios and the videos on the website, so you can watch them, so you can review the answers. And from now on, I've just been really kind of remiss in it, because I had, you know, now we got Isaiah's nagging me, and Sundari's nagging Isaiah and me, and and she's sending out things to Dave and all the people who are attending these things to please remind me to turn on the audio and the video. So hopefully now, from now on, it'll be a professional thing, and we'll actually have a good, you know, backups for all this. Because this you just have to keep at this. I mean, what else you got to do anyway, really? It's just a great way of life to, you know, exercise your discrimination. And you don't have to be fanatic about it, but just consistent and steady. And slowly the assimilation takes place without much effort. At the same time, you know, you get to live your life and enjoy yourself without all that seeking and anxiety. I haven't decided what text we'll do next, but we'll take up one of the texts, maybe a Tattva Bodh or the Bhagavad Gita or one of those texts. So we'll try to do it every 2 weeks from now on, and if we can see a way forward, we'll probably try to do it every week. There's a lot of interest in this Vedanta now. The thing has gone viral, as they say. So we're trying to meet that need and that demand and continue on, so. Good. Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Ishwara Guratmeti Murti Veda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Sadgurum Pranatosmiham Om